to be here and present the ministries in Zambia. And I have to say, every year the people, the places, the events, and God's hand in everything just gets imprinted deeper on my heart. And so I'm very pleased to be able to talk to you about these ministries that have become so precious to me. So the first picture is just a map of Africa. So South Africa is at the bottom, and then you have Zimbabwe, well, Botswana and Zimbabwe, and Zambia is above that in the middle. And you can see how the Democratic Republic of the Congo kind of dips down into it, really almost so Zambia's kind of like this with a dip down from the DRC. So then the next picture is the Copper Belt, so it's in North Zambia, and the DRC is those big the cities that you see are all really close to the boundary of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is not a safe place to go. But those cities, so this is the Copper Belt, so that area is a more affluent area, but you can see how most of the Copper Belt province is away from the cities. So most of it is farming and bush areas. So next picture is I had the privilege of, because I was only in the Copper Belt region this time, it didn't work out for me to go down to the capital city, Lusaka, and a ministry east of there this year, hopefully next year. But anyway, so I was with Grace Reigns Ministries the whole time. So next to me is Cindy Lilia in the red dress, and she's been doing ministry in Zambia over 20 years. And about 8 years ago, she and some of the pastors decided they needed something different than the typical model, even of fundamental churches in Zambia. So they started a ministry called Grace Reigns Ministry. And like I said, I had the privilege of being there with 4 of the 5 teams that came this summer. So Cindy was there 2 months, and she just had the whole time jam-packed. The man who is definitely Zambian in the middle is her Zambian son, Betson. And so this is his church where we are at this particular day. On the far right is John and Alicia Hatteman. So they were team number 1, and they did several days of training in the African money map, which is similar to Crown Financial, but with an African cultural application. And so one of the things they are trying to do is helping the pastors of churches and the Zambian people, and many, this is true of most African countries too, because they have been colonized and they're still very, very dependent on Europe and U.S. and other people. They really have not even been taught how to be financially independent. And so this is to help the pastors who often have to have a business or some type of endeavor to earn money, not just to subsidize their own income for their family, but also for their ministry, be able to have ministry funds. So John and Alicia were there several days before we are, and then the tall man, who's actually 6'7", that this is from team number 2, from Montana. So that's Dr. Terry O'Malia and his 12-year-old daughter, Darden. And so this is probably the 4th year that Dr. Terry has been going. The rest of the Montana team was his pastor. They're not pictured here. His pastor, and his wife, Brandy, and their 18-year-old daughter, Hannah. And so they were worshiping at the church where we were going to have our first clinic, along with Dr. Sword from American Baptist of World Evangelism, and two nurses and a teacher that he brought with him. So we were at Betson's church, and you can go to the next slide there. So Dr. Terry did Sunday school inside, and Betson was the interpreter. And then outside, we had John and Alicia were doing Sunday school with the youth outside. The worship services, well, Sunday school and worship services have a lot of music. So you see the ladies choir next. That's the ladies choir of Betson's Church, Calvary Bible Baptist Church. But they also have a youth choir, and they have a deaf choir. So two of the deaf ladies, they actually signed 3 songs, which is interesting. So music in Zambia, people don't just stand and sing like we do here. So there's always music. So you're singing, you're typically clapping your hands, and they have actually, for certain songs, will have specific foot movements. And so these ladies, they were signing the words, but doing the foot movements, and so they weren't clapping because they needed to use their hands to sign. So that was very interesting because there was no sound except the movement of their feet. But there is a wonderful deaf ministry at Betson's church. So John was the preacher for the worship service. He has such a heart for the Lord, and he and Alicia have a heart for Zambia. So I would say, if you want some things to pray for John and Alicia. They are seriously thinking about moving to Zambia as full-time missionaries with their 7 children. So it's not going to be just, like they pick up and go. But they have such a heart for the Lord and a heart for the Zambian people. John was, I think, his 4th time being there, and he knows some Bemba language already. And so I am actually praying that if it's the Lord's will, that he would bring them to Zambia. I think it would just be a wonderful asset for ministry there. So after church, the pastor goes out first, and he's married his wife, and then the guests. And with each one, you do a special handshake where you shake and up and shake again, and then you hug on both sides. And so each person comes and stands next in line, and you go around and around till everyone is out in the full circle. And even the little children, now some of them are a little shy around white people, so they're a little shy to touch your hand. Or sometimes they just want to rub your skin and see if the white comes off. But anyway, it's just a precious time. Notice the water station. So that was for washing hands before going into church or after church. If you're having snacks like we did, you would, you just get your hands a little wet. There's usually a little soap there. Any water that's in the pan, if you need to wash your feet, you can use water from the pan to wash your feet. There's no running water in many of these places. Betson does have electricity with one light bulb above the pulpit, but they don't use it very often just because of the expense. So after that, well, there's a picture of it. So that's the outside of the church building. Now we're going to go back inside again. And I was able to I really love these ladies. Edith is the one on the left. I don't know everyone's name, but I'm working on it. And then Cindy, while I was meeting with these ladies, Cindy met with 3 of the deaf ladies, and they are signing I love you. So that's one sign I know. I think I should actually learn sign language. So now we're going to go to the Grace Reigns building. We acquired this, Grace Reigns acquired this building last year. This is called the Cup of Grace building. It still needs a little work, but by God's amazing grace, it is ready for service now. So inside, we used it that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to pack meds. So the doctors bring the meds, and nurses in their big suitcases. They bring the meds in big containers, and then we use the Cup of Grace coffee area to pack the meds and get supplies ready for the clinics in the bush areas. So then after that, we had a meeting. That's Dr. Sorg, Dr. Jack Sorg. Next to him is Sarah, and then Alicia, and then Tamara and Jennifer were the 2 nurses that came. Sarah was the teacher. So Sarah worked in registration. The 2 nurses worked in the pharmacy for our clinics. So we had a meeting just to go over everything. The man in the front in the yellow is Mr. Zulo. He was our bus driver for the 2 weeks that I was there, that we needed a bus. And he was wonderful. He was a Christian. The first bus driver we had initially a couple years ago, when Bondo was killed in an accident a year and a half ago. And so the driver we had last year was not safe. He heard the gospel a lot, but he didn't want to join into anything, where Mr. Zulu would be with us for devotions and our worship times and everything. So here we are on the bus going to our first location. So this is typically how things would go every day for the 5 days of the mobile medical clinic. So we would get to our location, and this is often what we would see is people already lined up and waiting. Now the pastors had already been there early. They would go early, set up tables and chairs, and put curtains up inside. And then we would meet for prayer time before getting started, and then finish any final preparation. Set up the pharmacy, set up the glass. You can see how the pastors partitioned off the sheets to make treatment rooms for us. So I think next is my room. No, this is outside, setting up the glasses. So that was actually a game changer, because this year, besides the reading glasses, there's a system that can be used, and they would set up an eye chart was taped to the bus, and they would try to put it in a kind of shady area as possible. And there's a system that you can go pretty quickly and figure out, what distance the person needs for the right and the left, and pop those lenses in plastic frames. That was a huge game changer, because often we couldn't help anyone who needed distance glasses. We'd have to just say, I'm sorry, we can't help you. The ones who can get reading glasses, they're always happy, because now they can read their Bible or, read anything, but they're usually really happy to be able to read the Bible. So this is the waiting area inside. They would go to registration first, and then they will go to, I think on the next slide. So that's registration there. And then there's another registration. If we could have it in a shady spot, we did, but that didn't always work. This is to then from registration, they would go to one of the gospel teams, which was usually at least one or two American people and a Zambian person. This is Pastor Dennis, was someone, and what has in his hand is what they would use to present the gospel. It's called an advantage sheet. So it works not exactly like a Rubik's Cube, but like you flip part of it open, and so it has the pictures, because the people are very visual, and so the pictures and then explaining the gospel in very simple terms. And honestly, these pastors and the Americans, for those that understand English, it just is such a marvelous tool for presenting the gospel, and a remarkable response to it. So they would also, they would have a sheet of paper and find out, why are you here? What can we help you with? Are you on any medications? Just a little bit of medical history, if as much as they can do in a short time. And then would mark either an S, the person was saved already, a JS, meaning they were just saved, an I, they're interested, or an I, not interested. So that would be on the paper when we would get them. And then there would be a list of medications that the doctor could go back on to. That was Dr. Terry with a patient there. And then you can go forward. This was my view from my window of my little room my first day. And I looked out there and I saw the people. Honestly, it took me to tears, really, just looking at the people and the little bit that we can do to try to help them physically and spiritually. It's extremely humbling. That's about the best I can describe that. That was my room the 5th day, and that's not uncommon to have just a dirt floor, dirt. So my specialty is osteopathic manual therapy and some traditional physical therapy. So I would try to teach at least one or two easy exercises to every person to help maintain what I was able to do for them. It's really what God does. Honestly, I have to say, here in the U.S., when I worked in a clinic, I would see patients for typically an hour at a time, and they would come 2 or 3 times a week for several weeks. And, hopefully we would get the person better. Here we have maybe 20, I would have maybe 20 minutes with a person, sometimes less, sometimes more, but that was about usually the max was 20 minutes. And God will just provide the releases. I have to say, by God's grace, everyone walked away either pain-free or significant reduction in pain or whatever problem they had, increased range of motion or whatever the issue was. So there's Dr. Sword with his nurse, Zambian nurse, Precious. And here I am doing some manual lumbar traction with a patient. And then the next slide, so this is kind of blurry, but I have to tell you about this. This particular picture was from day 3, which was when we saw the most influence of the witch doctors. Those marks, the dark marks that you see, are cut marks from the witch doctors. And these bush areas are typically very highly steeped in the witchcraft and occult. Even if they go to a church, the common churches there are the Church of Zambia, which is very liberal, kind of like the Church of England, Seventh-day Adventist it is just religion. But even those who are saved sometimes do that. This is what a pharmacy looked like one of the days. It was just with bricks. This particular location we were meeting, just the church was just this kind of bamboo and tarps. But you see the bricks, they were building a brick church around the structural one. A little more? Is that better? Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Yeah, tell me if you're not hearing me. So we just set up as best as we could in this place. This is showing where the glasses were set up in this, that was day 3. They had a little hut. There's pharmacy in another location. So it just varied. We used whatever we had. This is my favorite meal. So Shima it's kind of like grits, but it's molded into a kind of an oval shape. And you can't really tell what the meat is there, but it was actually fish. The river fish goes back to is green, and that's actually my favorite meal. And the greens on the plate they have every day. It's from the rape plant, which is modified for U.S. and Canada to make rapeseed oil, which is typically called canola oil. But in Zambia, it grows wild, and it is there. It wouldn't be here because it's being modified, but there it's very nutritious, and that's basically their staple. The greens, a little bit of sauce, the shima, and if they have meat, then the meat. So the next slide. In each of the locations, they provided lunch for us. That doesn't always happen. We always have bread and peanut butter and jelly on the bus if needed. But each of these locations provided lunch. But these are very poor, very out in the bush or very rural areas. So that piece of bone was no bigger than my finger. It tasted like chicken. It was supposed to be chicken. Whatever bird it was, we were just very thankful to have it, and humbled really that they, who knows how they got the birds that they needed to provide this meal for us. But now this was but I am already looking forward to going back next year if the Lord provides for that. So we treated for the week of the clinics, we treated 111 patients. There were 87, like that, just whatever religion they were practicing was diagnosed when they're faced with the truth of Jesus Christ. So that's just such a blessing to be able to have a part in that. Even though I'm not one who, is involved in leading to the Lord, but I do pray that the doctors would pray with each person, the pharmacists would pray with each person. So even if they weren't saved, whether they were saved or not, we prayed with them. So several times they would have someone praying with them each time. But it was just such a blessing. Now this is the second Sunday, and that was a special day. This was an ordination service at the First Baptist Church, but people from Betson's Church, Calvary Baptist, were over here as well. The people in the white, that was a special singing group of young people, college age, that in between high school and college give a year to this music ministry, and they travel around to other countries as well as India, doing presentations and sharing the gospel. I think they do some sports ministries as well. So they were there for this special occasion, and we also had their choir was there, and a choir which you can't see very well, but that was their youth choir. And then the next one, these ladies, so this is a pastor's choir. So because this was a special time and an ordination service, there were about a dozen pastors from the region and their wives. And so most of the ladies in those uniforms were either a pastor's wife or a ministry lady. And they have, to earn that uniform, they have to have attended some courses in the North Star or in a Bible Institute, but the North Star Bible Institute, Bethlehem, is one of the administrators there. So the ladies have Bible training, and they have training in ministry. And so then once a month, or at something special like this, they would wear their special uniform, but then they also sang and performed some music as well. Lots and lots of music in these church services. This was, I think my pictures got mixed up a little bit, but anyway, this was in the afternoon, later in the afternoon. The ladies from Betson's Church came, so I had another time with them, and as well as Dan's wife, Brandy, shared with them. But we just had a really precious time of fellowship. And so I have to thank the Joy Sunday School class, because they give me a little support every year. So I had funds to buy refreshments to have for all these ladies. I was also able to purchase 2 tea sets and some small appliances and things for the Cup of Grace Coffee House and Counseling Center to help get that established and ready to go. And some of the money went toward devotional books and gifts that I had for these ladies too. So I do want to thank the Joy class for their support. It means a lot, not just, the financial support is obviously very helpful, but just knowing that people are here praying for me, that whole time, honestly, the prayers are felt. They really are. So don't ever take your prayers for prayers matter, and I could certainly feel the prayers of people back here, so thank you. Thank you. So anyway, this is just us, and almost here's just to even say this. This is just such a special honor. They always do this song where they welcome me into their family and a song of appreciation. But this was a high honor. These two ladies, they got down on the floor on their right side, they rolled over to the left and back to the right, and they were clapping while they did it. And that is just a high honor, a sign of high honor and respect and appreciation to someone. I had personally never seen that before, and it just, I can't even describe how that touched my heart, really. That's beyond words. So then after that, we had celebrated the evangelist Derek and his wife Brilliancy live next door to the city, and this is their daughter Kwanda. She turned 11, so we had a birthday celebration that night, and you can see the lights had come on by then, so we had light. But the next morning, this is how I read my Bible. If I want to read my Bible in the morning before we get started, I have a solar, so we put our solar lights out during the day, and then we have them at night, and especially until the lights come on, and then in the morning. So you can put it around your neck, or you can hang it up somewhere or whatever, and just shine it on whatever you're trying to look at or read. So anyway, that's how I would use my Bible in the morning. So then we had, from Monday to Wednesday, we had some much needed R&R with the Montana team and the pastors and their wives. So that's saying welcome to Ensobe, which is a Christian camp. And it was just, it's a beautiful setting that you'll see the meeting in a few of the pictures. This was, Brandy did some mentoring with the pastors' wives while Dan was with the pastors. This is actually Dan's third year of coming, and he spends time being a pastor to the pastors after the week of mobile medical clinics, when everybody's really tired, because the pastors especially get up very early and have things set up. They tear everything down and have everything ready for the next day. So they work really hard. And so Dan just wants to pour into them and encourage them and help them to be able to follow up on all the ones who make this profession of faith, and to help them to be shepherds of their flocks. And most of the pastors have other of these small churches, like one we visited, and others under them. And sometimes the pastors of those churches are really just lay pastors at weekend or someone. So that ordination service that we had the previous day, or 2 days, was for a deacon to be ordained into being a pastor of one of the little churches where we have a clinic. So this is just, it's very African looking, as you can see, but beautiful, serene, and they would have Christian music playing for our meals, and just a nice time to relax and reflect and have some fellowship time together, some worship time. I love to come out sort of this recharging to be ready for the next step after this. So they had some fun and game times and a little more of a money map, just a review of things, a little training, and just, time as couples, the pastors and their wives. A few of the little children, babies, had to come along. But it was just a good retreat for the pastors and their wives as couples as well. So in traveling back and forth, we would see places like this, sometimes just a little lean-to where someone would be there to set up, have some whatever they were trying to sell, some produce or fabric or whatever they had. Sometimes it would be big like this, with just hundreds of people and people trying to sell things, people there to maybe get bargains, but just driving by, this was a typical sight to see this kind of thing. There was one time driving back in the night, these are just so quick, that's a bush buck, and then there's going to be some monkeys, and a crocodile, a big, very big crocodile. Those were all in it, so they do have some zebras and giraffes and about 16 different types of antelope, from little ones to great big eland and water bucks. But I didn't have opportunity to go on a safari, but the doctors paid for the pastors and their wives to be able to go on a safari, so they got to experience that. But anyway, one of the times that we were going past at night, there was a lady in an empty, she was sitting back in the shadows with a little girl on her lap, and it was just an empty marketplace. There was no one else. And I just felt compelled to pray for that lady. I don't know why she was there by herself with her little girl in the dark. But I just prayed that God would protect her, that if she didn't know Jesus, someone would bring Jesus to her. And there's just times that God moves your heart in just ways that can't even describe. But I have no knowledge of the lady at all, but I pray for her periodically. So the Montana team went home, and the next team came. This was the Mill Creek Baptist Church from Erie, Pennsylvania. And so this is Dr. Jill. She came to be, so this is different from the evangelistic clinic. She came to be a doctor to the pastors and their families and their churches. So, and Brilliancy is her interpreter there. And then this is Cindy with a lady named Sophie. And Sophie had just had a hip replacement, and she couldn't pay, she didn't have enough money to pay all of the medical bill. And she wasn't sure what to do, and so, I gave her some treatment, and it helped her pain. But she went and she talked to Cindy. She knows Cindy for many years. And we ended up, we stopped what we were doing. We all came out, we circled around, we put our hands on her, and we prayed. And 15 minutes after we finished praying, Dr. Sorg from the ABWE team called Cindy. Now, he never calls her. He'll email or text or whatever. But he called her, and he said, I have a donation a large donation from someone, and I want to share it with you and your ministries. And it was enough to pay her medical bill and have enough to pay for some other needs of Grace Reigns ministry. So that's just how, the hand of God working in so many ways, but phenomenal, actually. We had not finished praying long at all till she got that phone call. So the Lord, just works in amazing ways for sure. So this was at Dennis's church in Mpongwe, and then this church here is Fraser's church in Kalalushi, and so we had a clinic there another day. And so I was kept busy doing therapy again at these places. This is the inside of Dennis's church. Both of these pastors have Christian schools at their location. And then Fraser also, so that's one of the Christian schools there inside. Fraser also has 3 other churches that he started, and he and another pastor, Justin, have radio ministries as well. Now here, this is my 3rd Sunday. This was honestly the most important day of all. That's Pastor Fraser there, and in the background is Pastor Brandon from the Mill Creek Church. He was the youth pastor of the church that we attend in Florida when our grandson was in youth group. Much loved young man here. And so anyway, he was the speaker then. But so Fraser did some opening remarks, and then Brandon prayed, and then we had a Sunday school service that Rob and Melissa did Sunday school, and then there was a dedication prayer, and as soon as the dedication prayer was finished, the pastors burst into song. So we're going to see if this video will work. I can't guarantee it, but we're going to. We are praising Yahweh, and you could understand hallelujah. And what they were saying was Hosanna, but they pronounce it Hosanna. So they're saying Hosanna to Yahweh, and they end with hallelujah. And then if you can play the other one too as well. The pastors, I have to say, have beautiful voices. Their voices blend really, really well together. And when they were singing this, honestly, I prayed for this, to be able to open this Cup of Grace Counseling Center for 3 years, but they've been praying for it for 10 years. And I was laughing and crying at the same time. It was just such a beautiful experience. So then we we had snacks and fellowship, and then we went to this beautiful park where we had a picnic lunch, and then we had a worship service that Brandon conducted. And the pastors wanted to not just dedicate themselves, but to dedicate their entire families to the Lord. So and the service of the Lord and the ministries of Grace Reigns Ministries. And so Brandon conducted a service of dedication and charge to them and their families for the service for the Lord, and a correct response to the Lord's call. And then we gathered them around and laid hands on them and prayed and dedicating them to the Lord. It was just such a moving time. That day was, I can't even describe how special that day was. I would not have wanted to miss that day for the world. I'm so grateful to have been able to be there for that. And then there was time for photos. So you can see the ladies, we all had matching dresses. So some of the money from Dr. Sorg went that we could all have matching dresses for this very special day. And the ladies were just elated. And then there's all the pastors of Grace Reigns. And there was time for the children to play. And on the way home, we just had the most gorgeous sunset. And I have to say, our hearts were full and overflowing. And all I can say is just the goodness of God, the grace of God. And it was just a marvelous 3 weeks there. So, are there any questions? Thank you. Appreciate that.
Explain a little bit of what type of medications were brought into the country in addition to the glasses, and then dealing with hospitals.
About the trouble getting the medications.
And what type of medications they were bringing in.
And what?
What type of medications they were
Oh, goodness. There's antibiotics, there's pain medication, there's things for malaria, for other, just basic, it's basic medications. Sometimes there would be more specific medications that the doctors didn't have. And sometimes, so last year, some of the money from Joy Class I was able to use to help buy some special medications in pharmacies. This year, both Dr. Terry and Dr. Amalia were able to do that, so I didn't need to help with that this year. But sometimes just paying for someone to go to the hospital. There's sometimes the people come to us and we can't really help them. They need surgery or they need something that we can't do for them, and they need to go to the hospital. But most of these people have no means of transportation, maybe a bicycle, very few mopeds, and it's only more in the cities that you see cars and trucks and buses and different things. So, so getting someone to a hospital, that can be pretty costly as well. So, and then the glasses, so this system, it's a new system that some, I don't know, really intelligent person figured out, that you can just, they put these things, cover one eye, just scroll up and down, and it's either a red 1 to 5 or a yellow 1 to 5 or a blue 1 to 5. And so there's like 15 different things for right and left eye, and they figure out, okay, so I need a blue 3 for the right eye and a yellow 4 for the left eye, and pop it into the frames. And so we have this kit. So Dr. Sorg and Cindy, through donations, were able to purchase this kit, this full kit that had probably 100, can do 100 glasses. There's some things that they were going to replenish, ones that got used a lot. And that was just a game changer, because people they were just so thrilled to be able to see. And so the two things that Dr. Sorg said were significant, that we have not been, that they hadn't had with the glasses in other places. He has taken them to Greece and a couple different countries now, so they're being able to use that more. And then being able to have physical therapy, that's not a normal thing. It's mostly just doctors. So that's a different thing that we do in Zambia. So I have to say, Dr. Sorg coming to Zambia with his team, because it's a joy. And the pastors, because they're used to it, they know what to do, and everything just moves very quickly, smoothly, and they work so well together that there's no personality clashes or anything. So it's just a joy to be part of. Yes.
How do the witch doctors receive you? Are you considered a threat?
So I didn't go this time, but I did go one time to the chief. There are 15 tribes in the Copper Belt region, and there's one chief who's the head chief, the chiefess, actually, of all of them. So I was able to go along to visit her 2 years ago. She's not a witch doctor, but she's the chief, and they're. So we had her approval, and Cindy and the doctors, they get approval from everyone. I actually, the mayor brought his wife one night to Cindy's place. She was having bad headaches, and so she wanted me to treat her. The witch doctors, we can tell when we're in a location that the witch doctors are putting curses on us. We can feel it. So that's why your prayers are so important, because you have to realize the witch doctors don't want this. The Mormons don't want this. I don't know if the Catholics really do anything against it, but we can tell when the witch doctors and the occult are against us. They have not come personally to shut us down, although 2 years ago we were concerned about that in one location, but they have not been able to shut us down. But yes, there is definite opposition, and we can feel it. Last year I had a time where I just woke up in the middle of the night, and I knew it was from the oppression of the occult there. And so I just prayed, and the Lord took care of it. The Lord fights our battles. He fights. It's not ours to win. We just need to show up, and the Lord fights our battles. And I went back to sleep and slept the rest of the night. But yes, we can feel the oppression.
When you go, what do you need most, besides, of course, the Holy Spirit? What do you need most to directly take care of the children?
All right, just a minute. I need to. So I didn't want to have echoing. So now I need to. I need to put my hearing aid up a little bit. Can you repeat that, please?
What do you need most when you go, besides the prayer? What do you need most?
What do I need most?
Yeah. You're putting together a trip, you're getting ready to go, besides money. What can we send as a church body?
Well, I can. There are a couple ideas of things that we can talk about. Things like maybe the Bible in something I saw yesterday at the Christian Products Expo is Bible on audio Bible, and the man I talked to said perhaps they can do it in Bemba. He's not sure, but for some of them to definitely have it in English. But that might be a helpful thing for those who don't read. So there are some other things to look into and to talk about between now and next year, if the Lord wills. I hope to be able to go back again next year, or as long as the Lord keeps the door open and I'm healthy enough to do it and so forth. So, yeah. Anything else?
How big are the particularly? How big are the churches?
The Grace Reigns ministry, there are 7 pastors, well, 8 churches, but then they have some of these small rural churches under them. So there's probably at least 8 if not more, of the little churches under them, too.
How many people go to these churches?
To how many people? Well, it depends. I think Dennis, in a rural area, when the people are not busy with farming, he can have up to 100 at his church. And I think maybe that for the First Baptist Church in Luancha, which is where we went for the ordination service, Betson's church, maybe 50 or 60. You know, and then some of these small churches might just have a handful or 20, 25 people. So it varies, it depends. But we're hoping, to help these churches to grow. Some of it might be to help some of those churches that just have the bamboo and tarps to be able to have a building. So there's definitely a need to have wells, to have clean water, to be able to have bathrooms with running water, which many of the places don't have. So, they're just basic needs. A lot of it is basic needs. Perhaps helping the pastors who have businesses. So the one pastor is a tailor, and so one of the men who came from the Mill Creek Church is a tailor, and so he came last year. This year, he brought a sewing machine at Pastor Aswell, so that he has a modern sewing machine. He was using an old Singer sewing machine that looked like it was from 1920. I mean, really, and honestly, some of the appliances, the iron that we had and the toaster, they looked like they were that old as well. So to be able to get even just some small appliances, so thank you, Joy Class, to get some more modern small appliances for when they have electricity, to have ones that are safe and aren't going to cause a fire. So, there's a lot of ways to help, but just praying and I hope that as I share with you that these people have a place of special on your hearts as well. Yes.
Do you have addresses of the pastors over there that we could send like encouragement letters or cards or anything like that?
I have not tried to physically send anything there yet. I send text messages and messages through Facebook Messenger and emails, but I have not tried to physically send any. It's hard where they are to actually get something that you would send. So hopefully that will change too. The Zambian government they are doing better with infrastructure. So actually the roads were better. They were still not, some of, the dirt roads are not good at all. They're terrible. But the roads that were paved, and there were more paved roads, at least the paved roads were better than they had been the previous years that I had been there. So the government's trying to improve the infrastructure, but they were hit so hard with a pandemic after COVID, but then they had another pandemic a year and a half ago, and then the drought of the past couple years. So that's why electricity, so they use hydroelectricity. So the water levels were so low that they can't provide electricity for everyone in the country year, every day throughout every region. So some regions will have electricity here, and then another time it'll be there, it'll be here another time. So it's electricity is portioned out. The water level, they had a lot of rain, so the water levels were increasing, but still not enough to be able to provide electricity for everyone, more than a few hours a day. So anyway, all right, well, thank you so much. It was my pleasure to be able to share this.